So this is going to be the second time that I'm watching this video because I'm very confused by it. I have gone to Sheri Franke's YouTube channel, which it looks like she doesn't really use anymore at all. And I've gone to her Instagram, and I don't see what the hell they're talking about. I don't see any sort of breaking her silence. I don't know where they're getting these quotes from. I don't know what's happening right now because they don't actually source it, and they don't post even a screenshot of it.
Last 6 months have been difficult, but I have felt everybody's prayers, lots of therapy, lots of writing. I've written a ton, and it's helped a lot, and I'm ready to start sharing my life again.
Ruby Franke's eldest daughter breaks her silence after her mom, a now accused child abuser, is arrested. KUTV2 News' Brian Schnee is back with us to make sense of Sheri Franke's new Instagram post. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime.
I literally was just at her Instagram. Hold up. This is the last one that I saw. Hold on. Let's go to her channel. This is the last one posted. There's literally, was already covered last week. October 16th. So I don't know what they're talking about. Because I don't see anything new on her Instagram feed. What are they talking about?
I'm Jesse Weber. All right, so we want to do a bit of a reaction to the new update in the Ruby Franke case. Franke, of course, is the former Utah YouTuber who documented her life with her husband Kevin and their 6 kids on a now defunct channel called 8 Passengers. The controversial videos presented parenting and childcare advice that many saw as strict and even potentially abusive. It's interesting considering now that Ruby and her business partner Jody Hildebrand have each been charged with 6 counts of aggravated child abuse after 2 of Ruby's kids were reportedly found malnourished. Her son even was displaying lacerations from being tied up. But now Sheri Franke, this is Ruby's oldest daughter, has broken her silence after her mom's arrest. Shari had her own social media accounts where she documented her life. She took a break from posting videos, but posted in January saying she's ready to share some of her life again. I got a chance to interview once again Brian Schnee, who is an anchor and reporter.
January? You're literally posting this as though it's current? Come on, you guys.
From KUTV2 News. He's been covering the Ruby Franke case, and we talked a little bit more about this update. So now, before we get into what Shari said in this most recent Instagram post, can you just provide us a little bit of context about what we know of the relationship between Shari and her mother, Ruby Franke?
Yeah, I mean, basically what we know is what you've seen play out over the years on social media, around YouTube, right? Because this is a very forward-facing family in the public eye with 8 passengers. I personally was not an 8 Passengers viewer before this, but I know a lot of people out there, a lot of people who will see this, have definitely scoured the internet and seen the videos between either the relationship between Ruby and Sheri, or Ruby and Chad. Those are your 2 oldest children out of the 6 passengers, if you will. So
during menopause, estrogen is going to drop and cortisol is going to rise, and this causes unwanted tummy fat. And running an extra...
It's a very interesting dynamic, and I think we're seeing it play out almost day by day here with just the changes as of late, from Kevin Franke's body camera video of wanting to charge Sheri with a theft after she took some items, to them walking down the steps together at a recent hearing. It's hard to tell if it's all for show or if it's legitimate at this point, but I think time will tell and we'll figure it out.
We want to thank Morgan & Morgan, the largest injury law firm in America, for sponsoring this video. Now, before you say, oh, great, another...
No, you know what, though? I think it's entirely possible that the family, as they were walking out of the courthouse, was reacting to whatever the judge decided in regards to custody. So they all have to act happy about the situation. We don't know where the kids are going right now. We don't know if Kevin's just trying to like look supportive or Sheri's just trying to look supportive. We don't know what's going to happen right now. But the whole result of the custodial case earlier this week was supposed to be for the best interest of the kids, right? So my guess is they probably went to Sheri.
Law firm ad, first of all, how dare you? Don't speak that way of Morgan & Morgan. And second, you don't know what makes them special. Morgan & Morgan has completely modernized the personal injury claim process. They make it super easy for you. How? You submit your claim, you sign contracts, you upload documents, and you talk to your whole legal team all on your phone. Now, if you're injured at work, this isn't about suing your employer. It's about suing your employer's insurance company, which I got to tell you is a huge relief because I love my boss. And you know what? My boss loves me. Honestly, it's sad. Not everyone has our kind of relationship. It's no longer the day.
Yeah, it doesn't usually work out like that if you have a personal injury. Not even a personal injury, like an injury on the job. If you have an injury on the job, your employer is going to try and get rid of you so fast. And the law, fortunately, works in your favor. But they will try and get rid of you so fast by giving you tasks that you can't complete, saying that they don't have any modified duties that can accommodate your work situation where you have an injury, and just trying to force you to do things you can't do, potentially making your injury worse. Okay, I'm going on a tangent right now because this is my life.
Days of back-to-back meetings and consultations, an attorney is going to review your case with 8 clicks on your phone. That's it. Now you might be saying, sounds pretty expensive, right? Well, here's the kicker. There's no upfront fee. No, you only pay them if you win. So it's no wonder over 3 million people call them every year. So if you're injured, you can submit a claim at www.forthepeople.com/law and crime or by dialing pound law. That's pound 529 on your phone. And again, before we get into her most recent Instagram post, my understanding is Shari has said, I think on a podcast, that she broke away from her family after Ruby got, for lack of a better word, connected with Connections, the business that was started by Jodi Hildebrand, that it was that relationship, Jodi and Ruby, that caused Shari to break away from her family. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, it sounds like that, but it also sounds like a number of other family members had that same experience too, right? A lot of people that I've spoken with said, hey, I haven't had a dialogue with this side of the family in years. And it sounds like both of Ruby's sisters said the same thing, right? Bonnie Holine said the same thing. Julie DeRue said the same thing. Both of them have very large YouTube channels and followings, and they put videos out kind of expressing some of the same thing of, oh, we haven't been in touch over the last 3 years or so. And if you were to do the math on the timetable, that suggests it has to do with this relationship with Jodi Hildebrand.
Right. Okay, so let's get into this Instagram post. So Shari writes, and I'm going to read 2 parts of it, but this is the first part. Quote, there's literally not even words to describe how upside down my life has become.
Okay. So you're late to the party. Because this has been discussed by multiple live streamers over the last week. Because she put this out like when they went to court. This is breaking the silence? For real? I thought you were going to give me an actual update. Okay.
I've cried, had an infinite number of panic attacks, had way too much ice cream, and yet life goes on. Therapy has literally saved me, but God has too. My life is somehow becoming more beautiful and fulfilling despite all the terrible things going on. I've tried to live my life to the fullest the last few weeks, even though all I want to do is hide away in my apartment. I do have my days. Brian, let's start right there. What's your reaction to that part of the statement from Sheri Franke?
Well, she's human, right? I mean, she's obviously going through a really difficult time. So many people have reached out to her, whether she wants to hear from them or not. I think this is one of those things. It's about time we're hearing from her, right? There's so many people that are involved in this as just a consumer or even a family member that just want to know how she's doing. It's pretty obvious that both Sheri and Chad have perspective on what was going on to some degree, right? Just how much they want to share is totally up to them as it pertains to their mom, Ruby, and even if Kevin had any involvement in any of this, right? I think that's still the question mark here. But when it comes to what she said, she's a devout member of the church.
You know what's amazing is that these two kids, the eldest, are actually able to question what their parents were doing and kind of come out of this with some sort of balance, because the rest of the kids seem like they're still somewhat brainwashed that they were the problem, they deserved the discipline they were getting, and so on and so forth, right? Whereas these two kids realized that what was going on was not normal and it was extreme, and they shouldn't have been subjected to that sort of treatment. I think Chad is probably going to be the one that comes out of this with the most animosity towards his parents, because they sent him to a wilderness camp, and then they made him sleep on a sleeping bag for 7 months in the living room. I mean, the shit they did to their kids was so over the top unacceptable that, yes, I think that more people should be getting locked up for what happened here. Kevin should be arrested. Pam should be arrested. This is in my humble opinion. But this is not the way you treat children. You're raising them, you're responsible for their care and welfare, you're responsible for feeding them, and apparently you couldn't even get that done. Oh my God.
Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that is very forward-facing on her Instagram page, but I'm not surprised that she's had kind of this tug of war with how she's feeling, but it's good to hear she's doing okay considering her family is in the spotlight, not the spotlight any of them probably wanted.
And we have to remember that when the news broke of her mom's arrest, the first thing she did was she posted on her Instagram story a photo of the police, and it wrote, "Finally." And I thought that was a very, very big statement. So it's not like this is the first thing she's posted since the arrest. It was the "finally" that was the first post. Was there anything else in between? Because that was a very big development and a very big statement for her to make that after her mom's arrest.
No, haven't seen anything. And it's been, 6 going on 7 weeks? I mean, this is really, over the last month or so, kind of just dragged out a little bit because we haven't had court hearings. We haven't had a lot in this process to understand where the actual child abuse portion of this and these allegations are moving forward. So we've been trying to rely on is people's perspective on all of this. And Sheri is definitely one of those key members. We'd love to know what she's thinking. We'd love to know what she knows. You're right, though. The most punchy part of all of this was when she had one word on the screen with Springville police outside of the home there and said, "Finally." And we hadn't heard from her since. So I think this is really encouraging that we are hearing from her finally again after 6, 7 weeks?
And there was a second part to her Instagram post as well. She wrote, "Tomorrow is another big court day, and I'd appreciate your prayers and thoughts for my family and myself." And again, she wrote, "Words can't express the gratitude I feel for you all, and I feel your love." Now, we should note that this post was made a few days ago. What is she talking about here in regards to the court day?
Yeah, she's talking about the day where you ultimately saw in some of our video play out where Kevin, which is Sheri's father, Chad, who's Sheri's brother, and then their two attorneys all walked down the steps. They went into a courthouse in Provo, Utah, to the 4th District Court here in Utah County, and it's about the child welfare situation as it pertains to the 4 remaining passengers, right? So we'll refer to it that way. Mom and dad are 1 and 2, Sheri and Chad are your 2 eldest, and then there's the 4 that are underage. So really the child welfare portion is what she's referring to. We do know the day that Ruby was, placed into custody, they decided, the DCFS worker decided, hey, we're going to take these two children that we found at American Fork. We're going to either put them with Sheri, so they're staying with family, or they're going to be put in state custody like the two other children were in Ivins, Utah, which is, keep in mind here, 4.5 hours south. I mean, really a big divide here in just the state of Utah. So I think Sheri has had a lot on her plate, right? She wants this to work out for her family. There was kind of that visual show with dad and brother coming down the steps, and they also exited together too. There was some laughter. There was a family dynamic there, which we hadn't seen before.
Yeah, and let me, if I can give you my perspective on it. Obviously not a psychologist, don't know what's going on in between, but the timing of the post I find to be really interesting in light of everything that we've seen, and you mentioned it. So when this story broke and all the reporting indicated that there was this kind of acrimonious relationship between Shari and Kevin, you said it, that at one point there's this video that comes out where Kevin was wondering why Shari wasn't arrested. He thought that she stole these various items from the Franke home. She ended up returning the items like tablets, cell phones, cameras, journals, passports. Police at the time said to Kevin she had no intent to steal. She was holding on to these items possibly for safekeeping. He hadn't been living at that residence for 13 months, so this wasn't a crime. And so now when she writes this post that says, you know, there's been basically signifying a lot that she's gone through, and then the next day she is walking with Kevin Franke, and we know from Kevin Franke's attorney, Randy Kester, that there seems to be some kind of reconciliation. That's what that signifies to me, is that post to me signifies there is some sort of reconciliation between Kevin and Shari. That's what I'm reading between the tea leaves.
Well, I think that he's probably trying to do the best he can to at the very least, have visitation rights. But it didn't seem to be a big issue for him for 14 months when he abandoned the family, right?
Leaves.
Well, there has to be something going on behind the scenes, right? And you would hope, because for all of this to play out, listen, the cliche time heals all. It's not really the case, but a lot of work had to have been done when you're thinking about Kevin Franke and the two eldest children to go in there and obviously, I don't know, duke it out with mom as it pertains to figuring out what to do with the children. Either they did this or they're working on this, or it's just because we were out there. I mean, there's different ways to look at it, but the post is really telling that some sort of mending has gone on in that family. It's just not clear exactly to what depth, right, this relationship is really secured, but it is a major part in how all of this will unfold as it pertains to the child abuse allegations from the initial day, August 30th in southern Utah.
And Brian, by the way, you're an anchor reporter for KUTV2 News. My understanding is you guys tried to get a comment from the Frankes after court, but no comment, right?
Yeah, no comment. I mean, the one day that we did hear from Randy Kester was one of those earlier hearings, which was about a month ago now in mid-September, after the initial hearing on the 7th, I believe was the date for the child welfare case. There was the attempt. I know that one of my colleagues has had a real quick exchange in dialogue with Sheri just in passing, but it wasn't anything noteworthy of, hey, we're going to chat, we're going to talk about this, we're going to put this out there. They don't want to say anything. And I think that they can't say anything about the child welfare situation because the judge sealed the case. And ultimately, that is because of early media coverage from some very, very, very large scale outlets that came into town and shook things up. And that's why we don't know.
No, but at this point, there's been enough time has passed because she was arrested, I think, on August 30th. And today is October 24th. So we're talking almost 2 months out, right? At this point, the kids that were being abused, obviously the two adult children have finally broken free of that situation. But the kids that were currently being abused have had probably enough time to be somewhat deprogrammed. Now, the foster parents who are taking care of Russell and Eve, which I believe they're in separate homes because of the bullshit that she put forward in one of the other custodial cases, trying to claim that her 12-year-old was like sexually assaulting other kids, like 20 other kids, siblings, neighbors, whatever. And who knows what sort of proof she has on that and what she considers sexual assault. Like, who knows what the hell she's even saying. We don't know what she's talking about. But by now, all 4 of those kids have been separated from the situation for almost 2 months. And they know that their mom is being held on no bond. They would at least know that much. But the foster parents can't really say anything. But it's not like these kids don't have access to the internet. They don't have access to TV. You know, they definitely can see updates on what's going on with crazy ass mom, right? I would think 2 months in, they would start, hopefully they're all getting therapy, right? And working through their feelings, because they're probably going through the struggle of trying to realize that, oh, dear Lord, mom was actually abusing us. And the world thinks this. The world believes this. So clearly I was in a situation where I was being told the wrong thing, you know? So it'll be interesting to see how they develop, because I think by now they probably realize they were not at fault and they should not have been treated that way.
What's really happening in that courtroom anymore?
And look, it's kind of hard to imagine, in light of everything that's happened, what Sheri Franke is going through. And that post kind of gives a little bit of an indication. But look, we're going to continue to follow this. I know you're going to continue to follow it. And hopefully we learn a little bit more about this family and about how everything seemingly ended up happening. But Brian Schnee, really appreciate you taking the time, coming back here on Sidebar. Always good to see you.
Glad to be here. At the end of the day, look in your comments. A lot of people are on Team Sheri, and they're not afraid to say it.
I'm not surprised by that, because the allegations against her mom and Jody, very, very bad. And at this point, from a legal perspective, it's hard for me to find a defense. Brian Schnee, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Thank you.
Well, I think it's unfortunate that you titled your video this way, making it seem like there's a new update within the last 17 hours, when in fact you're referring back to a post that she made last week before she went to court. That's a bit misleading. I'm disappointed.